Let me introduce myself. My name is Suryati Abbas. I'm currently an assistant professor in the Department of Elementary Education and Reading. And I am teaching diversity literacy methods, children's literature, which is going to be children and YA lit this coming summer. Other than that, I teach literacy coaching and an upcoming course on AI literacy for teachers. There's going to be like 5 week as well as a 15-week course upcoming. So Aaron actually asked me to come in for this, partly because this is one area that I have been introducing to teachers, but also I've been conducting in-person workshops in schools in relation to picture books that speaks about characters that are Middle Eastern characters or Muslim characters. So he wanted me to sort of provide it specifically for teachers to talk about picture books with Muslim characters. But yeah, I mean, that's where I'm coming from. My background in children's literature, I've taught a couple of different sections, different variations of children's literature to undergrad, master's level, as well as teachers, and also a community service learning module on how do we sort of like use picture books and graphic novels to reach out to people in the community to talk about issues of social justice, issues of diversity, issues of immigration, and so on and so forth. So maybe
Okay.
you can introduce me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Jess Painter. I teach middle school 7th grade ELA.
Mhm,
I took this class because I was just kind of interested in including more diverse books in my
mhm,
classroom library and in the
mhm,
novels that I read with kids, just to
mhm,
kind of like, because we're from such a small rural area
mhm.
that I
And
feel
where
like
is
they have
this
a
again?
it's in Addison, New York. It's
Mhm.
it's central New York, southern in the southern tier, like right by the
Okay,
Pennsylvania
Southern Tier.
border.
Okay, are you close by Lodi Library, that area?
Wait, say it again.
Are you close by Lodi Library, the Southern Tier
Oh
by
yeah,
Lodi
Lodi.
Ithaca?
Yeah, like an hour from Ithaca.
Okay, an hour. Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with that area because I used to teach in Geneva, Hobart
Oh yeah, okay.
colleges.
Yeah, that's
So
wonderful.
that was one space that I actually did some kind of work with diverse picture books with my students. And we had a good collaboration with Lodi Library, Geneva Public Library, Canandaigua,
Oh,
and
yep. Hmm.
yeah, so I'm pretty familiar because I came from Western New York
Oh, okay. Yeah.
before I move
Yeah.
up to this area. So yeah, if you're talking about where you're coming from, and if you're looking in particular for diverse picture books, I have got a different range of picture books for you to look at. So yeah, but Aaron told me that okay, it's going to be in particular Muslim picture books. So perhaps maybe we can talk a little bit about yeah, as you said, you're looking to diversify your library collection.
Mhm.
So perhaps you can give me some idea, how are you managing, like, getting your students to do, to do book reading? Do you have I believe you have a library collection in your class library?
Yeah. And like most of the books they read, like that aren't our class novels, we have
Mm.
like an independent reading project.
Okay.
So like I'm just noticing that kids are always reaching for the same kind of books, like the
Mm,
Diary of a Wimpy Kid books and
mm,
the Goss
mm, mm,
or Dork Diaries books. And
mm.
I'm just interested in giving them more of a choice with like
Mm, mm.
other than like the same type of character and everything
Okay,
to kind of
okay.
like broaden their horizons before they
Mm,
like
mm.
go into the high school and
And
beyond.
these are seven graders, right?
They're
Okay.
7th grade readers, but they are not reading on level. A lot of our kids are
Mm,
really struggling readers.
okay.
So like some of them are reading at like 2nd grade level. So
Mm,
like I have used picture books in the past.
mm.
We have a unit with Cesar Chavez,
Julius
and
Chavez.
there's a picture book that kind of goes with that talks about it's like an autobiography of his life, but it's a
Mm,
picture book. So
mm,
like I mean they do like latch on when you use
Mm.
picture books in the classroom because they're just really not used to being read to. I
Mm,
think a lot of my
okay.
students weren't even read to when they were a kid.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and picture like the picture books, that particular picture book is so like
Mm.
wonderfully illustrated. It's very
Okay.
vivid and the use of colors and everything. So,
Okay, so that means if I understood you correctly, you're looking for seeking picture books that are meant for seventh graders who are struggling readers, so to speak.
mhm.
And we are looking into ways in which we could expose these students. So maybe one approach, because the link that I sent you, they are specific, they're all picture books that speaks about issues of immigration, and they're all with Muslim characters. So I do have another Padlet that I compiled together that is more diverse in terms of looking at the different cultures, looking at the different ethnic groups based on themes. So maybe I will share that with you in the next couple of sessions. But
Okay.
what I have on the Padlet is that I have this idea of, like, trying to think about what is something that you're familiar with if you're looking at this particular maybe Middle Eastern or Muslim culture. So if you were to view Lila's lunchbox, I think you can get the link, right? Are you
Okay.
able to
Lila's
access it? Yeah,
lunchbox.
yeah. So
Okay.
maybe okay, why I'm putting this video read aloud, it's also because did Aaron pass you the physical copy of the book?
No, he wasn't sure if he was going to try to give it to me, but
Mm.
because I was outside the his BOCES region,
Mm, mm.
but he thought he could get copies of the books to me.
Okay, but I do believe that if you sign up for this, you should be able to get it for free. Am I right to say that? Or
Yes, yes.
okay.
And I just signed up for this class. Oh, I see the Layla's
Mm.
lunchbox. I see
Yes,
that.
okay,
Okay,
okay. So
okay,
so why don't you take a couple of minutes to run through it, and then
okay,
maybe we can talk a little bit about what is something that maybe you're familiar with, what is something that you're not familiar with, what
okay,
are your thoughts, and then perhaps how could we use this simple book to introduce your students to particular practices, particular cultures, which I believe that students in your area may not be familiar. Part of it is
exactly,
where you
exactly.
are is in a rural setting. It is a predominantly white setting. So maybe we could start with that, and then subsequent lessons, you tell me what you're interested in, and I will provide you with some of those resources. So I put together this video read aloud because I don't know whether you guys would get the book or not. So that is why I thought maybe I'll get some of these resources that I've been using with my students. And perhaps if you do not have funding for your class collection, this could be one approach where you may want your students to look at read aloud. But again, I always like to advise students to look at, and teachers to give students both exposure in terms of the physical book as well as the digital book, because the physical book
Oh,
is
okay.
important. Yeah, but maybe take a look at that Lila's lunchbox, and then we can talk a little bit about your response, things that you're familiar, things that you're not familiar, your thoughts, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll give you a bit of time. Once you're ready, you just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
No thanks, later.
Layla's Lunchbox, a Ramadan story, written by Reem Faruqi, illustrated by Leah Lyon. We won't be needing this for a while, said Layla's mother, hanging up Layla's lunchbox. Imagine, I won't be eating lunch for a month, replied Layla with a twirl. I won't have to pack lunch for a month, said her mom, with a bigger twirl. The year before, Layla had wanted to fast with her best friends, Hind and Ishrat, during Ramadan. But Layla's mom had insisted she was too small. Remembering that, Layla stopped twirling. She missed her friends. Moving from one continent to another had been hard. On the map in her atlas, North America and the Middle East were 10 inches apart. But in real life, she was so much farther away. She wished she was only 10 inches away from Hind and Ishrat. She knew the sign by the highway said, Peachtree City, you'll love to call it home. But she didn't agree with the sign. Abu Dhabi still felt like her home. The next morning before sunrise, Layla's mom gently nudged her. Layla, she whispered, Sari time. Layla chomped on her chocolate chip pancakes with her eyes closed. Delicious, she said. Come, let's pray now, said her mom. After Sari, Layla snuggled back into her bed until her mom woke her up again, this time for school. As she left the house, her mom handed her a note. Layla, please give the note to Mrs. Penworth. Without her lunchbox to carry, her fingers felt extra free and swingy. She felt so light she skipped to the school bus stop. On the school bus, she read her mom's note. Dear Mrs. Penworth, this will be Layla's first time fasting for the month of Ramadan, so it is an exciting time for us. Please excuse Layla from lunch for this special month. Thanks, Mrs. Malik. Layla didn't feel so bouncy anymore. What if Mrs. Penworth didn't know about Ramadan? No one else would be fasting with her. She folded the note into a teeny tiny square and hid it in her book bag. Layla walked slowly to her class. Her throat felt dry all morning. When lunchtime arrived, she still hadn't given Mrs. Penworth her note. Layla, did you forget your lunch? Asked Mrs. Penworth. Layla opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Samantha volunteered. I'll share my lunch with Layla. Mrs. Penworth shook her head. Thank you for the offer, Samantha, but Layla, please get a sandwich from the cafeteria. Layla followed her classmates to the cafeteria. Layla, do you want some of my cream roll? Asked Anna. Layla thought of telling Anna that she was fasting, but she didn't think anyone at Sunnyvale Elementary School knew about Ramadan. No thanks, she started to say. I didn't bring my... Are you sure? Asked Anna, unwrapping the cream rolls. Layla watched the cream roll get smaller and smaller, and she didn't feel so sure. Cream rolls were her favorite. She looked away. Her nose still smelled food. Layla wished she had given Mrs. Penworth the note. Even Isaiah's bologna sandwich looked tasty, and Layla didn't even like bologna. Her stomach rumbled. Suddenly, she had an idea. While everyone was busy eating, she sneaked out of the cafeteria. Her stomach stopped growling. Why, Layla, it's a pleasure to see you. But what brings you here at lunchtime? Asked Mrs. Carmen, the librarian. Layla felt safe among all the books. She opened her mouth, and this time her words tumbled out. Layla told Mrs. Carmen that Mrs. Penworth and her classmates didn't know she was fasting. She told her how she missed Hind and Ishrat. It felt good to tell someone all the words that had been inside her mind all morning, and especially to tell her about Ramadan. Mrs. Carmen understood. You must feel special to fast this Ramadan, said the librarian with a smile. I do, said Layla, but why is it so hard to explain? You know what I always do when I can't get my thoughts out or when I get shy about talking? Asked Mrs. Carmen. I write my thoughts down. Layla got to work. She wrote neatly, adding extra loops to her capital L. She worked so hard her cheeks turned pink. Dear Mrs. Penworth, I didn't forget my lunchbox today. It's Ramadan. My mom finally let me fast. This means I won't be eating lunch for a month. Sincerely, Layla. P.S. I'm Muslim. P.P.S. My mom wrote you a note too. Here it is. P.P.P.S. Here's a poem I wrote about Ramadan. Ramadan is a month Muslims celebrate, a time to count our blessings and appreciate. Muslims fast before sunrise to sunset, but wait, that's not all just yet. Ramadan is a time for lots of prayer. We help the poor people to show we care. So in the day, I won't be eating any food, but hopefully we'll stay in a good mood. Layla hurried back to the cafeteria to join her class. Before school was out, she quietly dropped both notes onto Mrs. Penworth's desk. The next morning, Layla swung her fingers as she waited for the school bus. Would Mrs. Penworth like her poem? Layla hoped Mrs. Penworth wouldn't think she had forgotten her lunchbox again. She slowly climbed each step on the school bus. In class, Mrs. Penworth didn't say anything, so Layla wondered what had happened. At times like this, she wished Hend and Ishrit were there with her. They would know what to say. At lunchtime, Layla's feet felt heavy. She was sure Mrs. Penworth hadn't seen the notes. Everyone would think she had forgotten her lunchbox again. As she was leaving class, Mrs. Penworth patted Layla on the back and handed her a message. Mrs. Penworth had made her capital L and Layla's name extra loopy. Dear Layla, I enjoyed your lovely poem about Ramadan. I'm impressed you're fasting. What a special time for you. You and your family must be thrilled. Would you share your poem with the class today after lunch? You could go to the library this month instead of the cafeteria. Mrs. Carmen is excited to see you. Sincerely, Mrs. Penworth. P.S. Mrs. Carmen told me you missed your friends. I hope you keep making new friends with our class. Layla twirled all the way to the library. She couldn't wait to share her Ramadan poem with her class. Later, at iftar, she would celebrate this day.
Are you done?
Yep.
Okay. Thoughts. Is that something that you're familiar with, or what questions you have?
Okay, so is Ramadan one of the most holy days?
Okay, it is upcoming this coming Saturday.
Okay.
Typically, Muslims fast. We will fast from
Sunrise to sunset?
sunrise to sunset, correct. And that
Okay.
sunrise to sunset varies because right now in winter, so that means we will get up maybe by around 6 we have to eat, and then we will break our fast by around maybe 6 or 5:30-ish. So a lot
Okay.
of it depends on the moon sighting. So right now they predicted that it should begin on Saturday.
Okay,
That
on
means
Saturday.
over the night, you should be preparing for it already. So
Okay.
that is one of the book that I once introduced it to my students, but also I invited that author to talk about it. So I felt that this is something that if your school is in a location that's a bit more diverse, you will find students coming from maybe Middle Eastern backgrounds, students who are Muslims coming from different parts of the world. So my intent of getting you to look at that book is also partly because it helps me to understand, okay, so if a teacher is going to be introducing students to a picture book which is of a different culture than yours, So which means that we are looking at this idea of windows, mirrors, and sliding doors. Are you familiar with that? With that
No,
concept? Okay. Windows, mirrors, and sliding doors. It is a concept that is being used in literature to talk about how books that we expose our students could be a mirror to ourselves, which is like maybe if I'm white, this is a book that is one white character. So it mirrors your own identity. It could be a window when what you expose your students is not differs from the identity or the cultural practices of that student. So it's windows, mirrors, and sliding doors is where students try to gain understanding of like making connections with what they know and what is being read out there. So when we look at exposing students, be it like maybe picture books, graphic novels, or maybe young adult lit, or maybe chapter books, we try to expose them to the idea of windows, mirrors, and sliding doors. So that means in your class library, you should have books that helps them to see their own identity. That is one thing important. Yes. So if you are looking at, maybe Christmas, I think that's a good one, mostly celebrated by most of the students. You may want to think about how having books that mirror that there is a window to the students. For example, this is one example. It could be Eid celebration. It could be Ramadan is when students will start fasting, and there is a month before Eid celebration. So this is one book that won an award, and it is one of those books that you may want to introduce your students if you're looking at developing their ability to think about different cultural, different religious practices in a way that is narrative, is not too heavy, but you could
Okay.
also sort of ask them like, do you know anything about fasting? Does any of you fast? So that could be a simple step. And then you bring them to this idea that, okay, in this book, it speaks about how this character, fast during Ramadan. And that is a practice of, a character who is Muslim. And how does she feel about it? So perhaps at a very simple level, you may want to, I mean, these are things that I believe you're familiar with, looking at the book cover and asking students to predict it. If you're
Oh,
going
okay.
to be using that as an in-class read aloud. Are you planning to use it as an in-class read aloud, or what are your thoughts?
I thought I would just like, we have a period at the end of the day, it's called win time. So I have like a small group of students and I'm pretty free with like what I can do. So like, yeah, I think that would be a great book to introduce the kids to, because I can see like a lot of parallels between them and Layla, even though they're of course like of different religion. Like when she's happy, she twirls, and like, what do you guys do when you're happy? And like, what kind of religious traditions do you have in your family? Or like, and like at first she seemed embarrassed that she seemed like she would be separated, and like,
Yes.
what's something maybe that happens in your own family culture that makes you feel like you're
Uncomfortable.
separated from your peers and stuff. So I
Yeah.
can definitely see like reading that, and like you said, it's like it's pretty surface level. So I think kids would definitely like identify with some aspect of it.
And
Even like
then
missing her friends and moving and not being able to like contact people, not seeing people every day. Like I feel like, yeah, there's definitely a ton of parallels between my students and what they would learn in the book.
yeah, and if they are seventh graders, if they are ready, you may want to like, ask them to come out with like maybe a 3-page kind of factual information on Ramadan. How is it
Oh,
celebrated?
okay.
How
Like
is
a
it
mini
celebrated?
lesson.
Yeah, how is it celebrated in different parts of the world? Or what
Mm-hmm.
pictures can they find online that they can put together into a scrapbook? So I don't know, that
Okay.
depends on if you have a project that builds into your curriculum. So
Uh-huh.
remember that my advice would be use some of these moments where you can tie in with your own curriculum, with your school curriculum in such a way that it's not taxing on you, it's not additional work on you, it's also not additional work on the students. But of course, the other approach could be, as you said, you have more flexibility to think about what you want to do. And then you may want to give them a choice to pick a book. If your school does have funding for books, then I think it's good for you to purchase different types of diverse picture books.
Oh, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I definitely agree. One of my coworkers came into my room a couple years ago because she was taking a class and she had to look at a teacher's classroom library, and
Mm.
she was like, you really don't have very much diversity in your books.
Mm.
And I had never thought of it that way, but she was completely right. So
Mm.
now I try to, like, when I'm picking out books or looking at books that I want to add to the library, I try to pick more like diverse topics or by people who are, not white, and just
Mm.
something else that other kids can like identify with, and
Mm.
maybe, look at me as someone that they could talk to about.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
I would want to be like someone like Layla's teacher that she could come and talk to me about and feel
Yeah.
comfortable about it,
Yes.
and not
Yes.
feel like I'd make fun of her or think she was strange or something.
Yes, and also maybe like as a follow-up activity, you may want to get your students to write about it, like in terms of their feelings, their responses. Apart from moving away from factual information, you may want to like do something that's a bit more narrative, a bit more responses, journal entry kind of response where you get them to maybe draw it out or use technology. That depends on how comfortable your students are in terms of using technology. So if they're comfortable,
To like when you were saying like put everything on a piece of paper, like use Padlet or something, and then they could like,
Mhm.
use emojis, or
Yeah.
they could write responses or something, and then everybody could see what everybody was
Yes.
was thinking.
Yeah. Do you have a learning management system in your
Yeah,
schools?
Schoology.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
use Schoology. I think that is very good. There's a platform
Mm-hmm.
that students are familiar with. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
using Padlet because that's what I use with my students and with the
Mm-hmm.
teachers also. So Padlet, I think you can create a few free posts,
Yeah.
but not
Mm-hmm.
many if you are not subscribed
Right.
to it.
You just
Yeah.
have to keep deleting the old
Mm.
ones. Yeah.
Yes, so that could be one way. The other way could be use Google Slides and then
Okay. Yep.
get maybe two students to work with one student,
Mm-hmm.
put up some information depending on what you want them to do. It could be a poetry, it could be something like maybe if you were to change the ending of the story, what does that look like for you?
Okay.
Or
Okay.
if you were to change this character, what does that look like for you?
Uh-huh.
So there are
Uh-huh.
many ways of looking at if you're trying to introduce maybe particular culture, particular practices, you may want them to like search for additional information and then share it with us. Maybe on Google Slides, everybody take one slide and then everybody can have one or two slides and add on to it, and it becomes a class resource for you.
Right. Okay. Okay.
These are
Yeah.
some ways, and then you may want to sort of like think about food. What are some of the savory foods that are, that follows with maybe Ramadan or Eid celebration? And these
Oh,
are,
so there's like traditional foods and stuff too that people
yes,
eat.
yes,
Okay.
there is traditional
Oh,
food
okay.
different across different countries.
Oh, okay.
There's
Okay.
also like traditional costumes related to, like in Pakistan, they put on this in like, in different parts of the world. Like what are some of those traditional costumes put up during Eid celebration? So there's a lot
Okay.
of things that your students may want to pick one particular country and then you put them into one Google slide. So everybody take 1 to 2 slides and then you assign them who will put in which slides and then put in some information, some visuals of that and ask them to talk about it.
Okay. I love that because that's like now that's like an enrichment activity too, because my
Enrichment activity.
principal's always pushing us to do like enrichment, and I think that would be like a great enrichment activity to do with the kids.
Are there any other thoughts and questions on the book?
No, I enjoyed it. I like that. I like I like read alouds. I forget that I like read alouds. Because
Mm.
I just don't see them so much. Like we really don't do that so much. So it's like refreshing. And the kids always do like read alouds
Do
when
you
I've done
go
them in the past.
do you go to any conference? Do you have funding to go for any conference as a teacher in your area? Or
Not
you don't?
really.
You don't? Okay, okay. Actually, I'm putting up a grant to sponsor teachers who are interested in doing something on AI.
Oh,
And
okay.
yes, so I don't know yet whether I'll get that grant, but if I get that grant, I'm happy to like, invite you and see whether is that something that you want to try out with your students. I'm not sure,
Okay.
where are you guys at with AI? Is that something that students in your school have been exposed, or teachers?
Yes, they've been exposed to it all right. They submit essays with it. So
Oh, okay, 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 okay. Yeah, yeah. So I'm looking at doing some research work with teachers. Me and my co-authors, we are each looking for 2 teachers who would like to embark on this, but we are waiting for the funding to come. So
okay,
once
okay.
that comes, I'm happy to send you the details. And then if
Okay, that
something
sounds
that
great.
you might be interested, we actually factored in some amount to fund teachers to go for conference, but it's not full. So
Okay.
that is something that I have been doing from time to time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think I also put up something for picture books, but I do not know yet what's the outcome of that.
Okay. Okay.
And how active are teachers in your school with coming up together with diverse picture books or graphic novels?
Diverse graphic. Now, I think we do I don't think we do a good job with it at all.
Okay, okay,
I think
okay.
we're just kind of like, I know a lot of times we are directed to get on, I can't even remember what Tidal Wave, TITLE wave, and
Mhm.
just pick like the most popular books that kids are reading today and order
Mhm.
copies of those.
Okay,
So
okay, I got it.
we're definitely not,
Okay,
I mean, we're definitely
are you
lacking.
guys on the science of reading?
No.
No.
Signs of reading,
Mm.
SIGNS.
Science of reading, SOR, science of reading.
Oh, science of reading. Oh, okay. No,
Mm.
I'll write that down though.
Yeah,
Science of reading.
because I know that some of the teachers that are my students, I know that they have been looking into science of reading, and there've been a lot of talks on that in the Long Island area. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but other than that, that is one example of a book that you may want to introduce. So I was thinking, if you want to sort of give yourself a bit of time to think of what are some simple follow-up activities that you want to create, and then maybe the next session we can discuss and talk more about those ideas. What are your thoughts?
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Is it something that you want to give it a shot, tie
Yes,
in
that
with
sounds,
your curriculum, and then I'm happy to give you some inputs on that when we meet the next time round.
yes, that sounds great. That sounds
Mm.
great.
Okay, tell me, what else do you want to get out of this? And then maybe we can sort of customize it, since it's just you and me. I think we got a bit
Mm-hmm.
more flexibility, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll try to do things that would benefit your classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like me talking, and I think, you get input from me through some of those things that you have in your mind.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. What do other teachers say that they like to get out of it? I mean, I
Okay.
really just like, I was just going into it with, yeah, my kids definitely need to be exposed to like different cultures and
Mm,
different
mm,
like ways of thinking and understanding that other people have like other traditions other than,
mm.
like Christmas and
Yeah. So I would say that if you have learners who perform at the level of grade 7,
mm-hmm,
graphic novels will be a good one. It's not so
mm-hmm,
heavy. It's also like enlightening. So there are a good number of graphic novels that speaks about diverse issues. And that might be something that you may want to look into, because if you say that they are struggling readers, graphic novels are always good to get them going, and then slowly you introduce them to chapter books. And then picture books are, of course, perfect because they can read many picture books in a week.
Pretty quickly, yeah.
You may also want to set up a system for your students where you give them a booklet, and each time they read a diverse picture book or a picture book or graphic novel or book chapters, if they can afford, that speaks about diverse issues, of diverse characters. And then you may want them to do a book review, a book trailer, or something that is simple, just a response, respond to maybe one particular page, or something that helps them to articulate to you that, okay, I've read this book and this is my thoughts. That might be the way to go to encourage your students. If you have a public library that has got diverse books, I think that's perfect.
Okay. Do you, in that link that you sent me, are there any examples of like diverse graphic novels?
I think so, but
Okay.
maybe not. But let me take a look again. Yeah, because I know that I do have it, but usually the graphic novels, they don't read aloud because it's a couple of pages.
Uh-huh. Right. But kids do, okay, because I see like One Green Apple.
One Green Apple, it is a misrepresentation of the Muslim characters, because the Eve Bunting is an immigrant, but not coming from the same cultural religious practices. So there were
Oh, okay.
criticisms on that story itself.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
All right. And we do like we have a BOCES library where we can like order class
Mm.
class copies of books
Yes.
too. So I could talk to our school librarian.
Mm.
I'm just looking through these books. I could talk to our school librarian too to see like what she thinks.
Yeah.
Because she's super into like trying to get diverse books into our classroom and trying to get kids to like learn about different cultures and
Actually, this is Black History Month. So what I did was I got my students to pick a book written by Black authors, or um, anything that pertains to Black characters, picture books, and they come out with a 1-minute book trailer.
Okay.
And then
How do they do that? How do they make book trailers?
Okay, the book trailers, are your students familiar with iMovie?
I don't know. I mean, I know I sort of am, but I don't know if it's available on like our class on
Okay,
their
if
computers or
it's
anything.
easy, what other tools are your students exposed to? Google?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, but we're not a Google Classroom. I do
Oh,
know
you're not
that.
Google Classroom. What about
Yeah.
Canva?
Yes, we do have Canva.
Okay,
Yes.
so I can send you the information on how to create a 1-minute book trailer using Canva. And the thing is, you need to try it out before you
Oh,
get
teach it.
your
Yeah.
students to do it. So it depends on how much time you have. I don't think
Right.
it takes up that much time.
Right.
But
It should be
when
pretty
you are
easy.
doing with 7th graders, you must be very guided, especially when they are not technologically savvy.
Right.
You may
Right.
want to spend some time in the classroom before you let them do it independently.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one. Other than that, yeah, you may want to participate in this NCTE Black History Month,
Uh-huh.
where you can do read aloud with the students, or you can sort of like do it virtually, run it purely virtually. If you Google for NCTE Black History Month event, you should be able to find that. It's free. Any teachers can host the event, and then you can just like put up some posters and update them to say what you did with your students.
Okay.
This could
Okay.
also be another way of exposing them to diverse books, picture books.
Okay. All right. I see that on here. Okay. Yeah, that would be great. And doing the book trailers, that would be super interesting. I would love to do something like that in our
Yeah.
classroom.
Yeah. Other than that, Are there any, do you want to take this time to plan your book activity? And then the next time round when we meet, we will discuss a little bit about what you have done. And then we will talk more about some suggestions for that, for moving forward.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, other questions?
No, not really.
Okay, do you want to take a look at another book, or do you want to call it a day and you prepare for the next session?
Okay, I'll prepare for the next session. I'll prepare for the next session.
Okay,
So
before
I should like, so what, I'm sorry. So tell me again what I should do. So for the
Okay,
next session, I should,
so pick a book from among those read alouds and
okay.
come up with a follow-up activity, and then we will talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to do that.
Yeah,
All right, great.
and then any other questions?
No.
Okay, so I don't know when is the next date, but I do think that it's next month. Am I right to say that? I need to check the date.
I can't remember. I know it's, oh, Frontline. It wasn't here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay, so
Usually it
anyway,
would.
you have my email address, right? So you
Yep.
can just get in touch with me.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Okay, Pinter, is there any other ways that I could support you, since it's just one-on-one? So let me know. I am happy to provide you with resources that I have. You're not in this area, right, Onyanta?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I wish I can meet you in person, because my office, I've got lots of those picture books in my office. So
Oh, do you?
the initial intent was for me to bring them to the Catskill Regional Teacher Center.
Oh,
So yeah.
The guy who was just on with us before, he was going to try to send me some copies. He thought,
Yes.
so hopefully he'll be able to do that.
Yeah, hopefully if you can do that, then you can wait for him to send you the copy, and then you can use that book. And then
Okay.
that will be more meaningful for you. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'll do.
Other things, other questions that how I could sort of better support you in this process.
No, I think I have a good start, and I think we have a game plan to how I'll kind of like start it with my class and
Okay.
everything.
Do you want to incorporate that into your curriculum? Maybe you tie in with your curriculum and pick a team. I do not know, but this could be one other possible way how you can sort of develop a lesson based on a book that you pick that might be helpful for your students going forward. And then you try it out, and then you share it with me. What does the experience feels like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then we'll kind of like, yes,
Yeah, and
definitely
then
see
you
what
ask
works and see
me.
what I could do better.
Yeah, and then you ask me the content. If there's any content that you think you're not familiar, you ask me. I'm happy to like give you.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's a great, yes,
So for
totally.
you, it's also like a window for you, but you go through me before you try it out in your own classroom.
Oh, okay. That's a
Does
great,
that
yeah,
sound good?
okay. That sounds good. Yes. Mhm.
Okay, Pinter. If there's nothing else, then let's use this, 15 minutes or so, or for you to like develop, to think about what you want to do that you can tie in with your curriculum. That maybe if you want to bring in interdisciplinary kind of subjects into it, what might that look like? And then when we meet the next time, send me, you can present it to me, or you can send
Okay.
it, and then we can talk about it.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay,
All right.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Now, do I say like happy Ramadan? How do you like?
happy Ramadan. Yes.
Okay, so happy Ramadan to you
Yes,
then,
thank you.
starting
So
Saturday.
get in touch with me. You can email me if you have any questions. I'm happy to attend to that, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
All
okay.
right. Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.